Illegal cosmetic surgery, police say, performed inside a Queens home. And now tonight, a woman is left clinging to life.
So in a previous video on this channel, we actually talked about a migrant from El Salvador that was performing an illegal dentistry operation in her apartment. And I talked about how in that particular instance, in that particular video, based on the way that the dental office looked, based on the condition and how disgusting everything was, that you should have known better before you decided to go and receive dental services in that particular location. And a lot of people in the comments of this particular video feel the same way about this woman who apparently went to this Astoria apartment building in order to get this procedure. And honestly, if you guys feel that way, if you guys look at this and decide that that is your takeaway from this particular story, I wouldn't blame you. But the thing is, this is New York City. This is Astoria, Queens. This is an area that I'm actually quite familiar with, and this may shock you, even though the building that I went into didn't look exactly like this one, but I actually got my eyes examined in a similar building, in a similar place that looked like from the outside it was an apartment. So this is actually not all that uncommon in New York City, where a bunch of places are kind of retrofitted for medical services. So before you guys say play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I just want to point out that we have not seen the inside of this place. According to the reporting, there were actual serious medical lights and medical instruments in this particular building, so it could have looked to the naked eye like it was legitimate, even though this person appears to have not been a legitimate doctor. Now, we're going to get into this. We're going to break this down in greater detail, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Good evening. I'm Christine Johnson. Police say that woman was left unconscious as the unlicensed suspect tried to flee the country. And she may not be the only victim. As Naveen Dhaliwal reports, police released a photo, hoping others will come forward.
It looks like an ordinary house in the middle of a very quiet neighborhood, but police say inside, Philippe Hoyos Ferranda was running a makeshift medical practice without a license.
So a couple of things that I think I need to make note of right away. I know a lot of you are saying, Sean, that looks like a regular triplex or duplex apartment building. What are you saying that you've received medical care in a similar place? But again, I assure you, it's not all that uncommon in New York City to have the lawyers' offices and even doctors' offices for certain things in buildings like this. Again, everybody relax. That on its own is not a huge red flag, although I will point out one of the major red flags in my humble opinion is the fact that we do not have a sign in front of this building indicating that those services are being offered there. That would be something that I would pay attention to, because even when you go to a place that is like a medical office that looks like it's in a residential building, usually there's something to indicate that in fact this is a medical office. It has been set up as a business, but also very importantly, I think it's crucial for me to point out that the regulations on behalf of tenants are so absurd and so ridiculous that they had to put a vacate order on the premises, meaning they actually had to take this to tenant court.
The house on 35th Street in Astoria now under a partial vacate order. The order states, first apartment operating as a medical office with medical exam table, cosmetic injectable syringes, exam lights. This all came to light on Friday after police say they found a 31-year-old woman unresponsive.
Because even though this guy has been arrested for nearly killing somebody, or actually what will ultimately turn out to him killing somebody, doing illegal medical procedures, as of right now, as of this moment, he still may have the rights to this apartment. He still may have the protections as a legal tenant, and the only thing that would obfuscate those protections is the fact that he was running a business. Not even an illegal business, but just a business, because you lose rights as a business owner, but you gain all these rights as a tenant, so there is a chance that he may be able to not beat these potential homicide charges, but still retain the apartment because tenant rights.
Investigators say the woman had come to the home to have her butt implants removed. During the procedure, something went terribly wrong. Police say 38-year-old Philippe Hoyos Ferranda called EMS and then took off. The NYPD releasing this photo, asking other potential victims to come forward.
Now look, even though I can partially understand why it wouldn't be a major red flag for somebody to go to a facility like this and assume that nothing was out of the ordinary based on the fact that I have been to a couple of different medical places that seem like they were set up in apartment buildings that were fully legit and above board, and again had a sign in front of it indicating that they were a business, it is important for you guys to understand that you should not skimp out on any kind of medical procedure in order to save money, especially of a cosmetic nature, especially if it is related to the Brazilian butt lift or anything of the sort, because you might not know this, but I'm going to share this with you. This is actually the deadliest plastic surgery procedure there is. Like, people die on the table getting these butt implants or getting them removed, as is the case in this particular instance. And that might not be something that you're aware of or you would even think to be true, but I assure you, by the numbers, this is definitely the case. In fact, people who are related to celebrities have died in procedures related to this because it is actually that serious. And this particular individual, scumbag through and through. Now, of course, they show a photo of him smiling ear to ear. It looks ridiculous right there. Not somebody that I would exactly trust, but not only did he end up poisoning this woman by injecting lidocaine into her, which caused her to have a bad reaction. Lidocaine is a local anesthetic, by the way, but that ultimately ended up resulting in her passing out. And of course, because he's not a real doctor, he had no idea how to resuscitate her. So what he decided to do was call 911, which I guess I can commend him for trying to get some professionals there. But then he took off to John F. Kennedy Airport because he was trying to make a flight to Colombia.
Detectives say they found Hoyos Ferranda's information and picture from a building landlord. Further, the city's license plate reader system got a hit on his vehicle on the Van Wyck Expressway near JFK Airport. That's where they found him, at the airport, after he had passed all the gates and was on his way to Colombia, but was taken into custody.
So look, I want to make something 100% clear for everybody out there in the audience. The victim in this particular instance is being reported as unconscious by this local news segment, but a bunch of other articles are classifying her as technically brain dead, so she did lose her life in this particular incident. However, I do consider it a minor, the tiniest bit of a mitigating factor that this guy decided to call 911, get an ambulance there prior to him taking off and trying to flee the country. And ultimately, that's what ended up leading to him being captured before he got on that plane in order to go to Colombia, because he had already cleared JFK's security. He had already gotten to his gate at the time that Port Authority ended up initiating an arrest against him. And based on this New York Post article, what I ultimately ended up discovering is that had he not called 911, the friend of this girl would have not been there in time in order to take her home from this procedure, because the woman was scheduled to be there for a significantly longer period of time. So because she wouldn't have been there, because she wouldn't have talked to the landlord and been able to work out that this was an illegal procedure being done in this particular location, that is the reason why this guy ultimately ended up getting caught, because he cared at least a certain percentage about the person that he put in this precarious position. He was able to maybe save her life and actually ended up cutting off his own escape. So that is a minor, a tiny, a baby mitigating factor. That is the difference to me between 25 years and 24 3/4 years, in my opinion, related to the potential sentences that this guy could get for, of course, this unlicensed medical procedure. But of course, this woman is likely to pass away, which I would increase the sentence based on that fact. She is reportedly brain dead, and it's absolutely tragic that this guy was doing this without the capability to do so. And according to the local news in the criminal complaint, he actually acknowledged that he had no license and he was performing these procedures.
According to the criminal complaint, Hoyos Ferranda admitted to performing the surgical procedure on the victim without a license to do so, and he also administered lidocaine via a syringe, causing her to go into cardiac arrest. Hoyos Ferranda is expected to be in court on Thursday. As far as that woman, officials say she's in the hospital. She has no brain activity, and she demonstrates signs of lidocaine toxicity.
Now again, while I did say that this was a tiny little baby mitigating factor for him, I do think that I just undid that mitigating factor in my mind, because what ultimately ended up happening to this woman was that the lidocaine, I thought she had some kind of weird, unusual, like allergic reaction to it or some other such thing ended up causing her to go into cardiac arrest. And for those of you who aren't aware, cardiac arrest is what you learn CPR in order to deal with. So if this guy would have called 911 and started doing chest compressions, the chances of this woman surviving would have been significantly higher. But of course, he chose to save himself. So even though I was taking off like a quarter of a year, 3 months of his sentence in my brain before, I now just added another 25 years, because had he been competent enough to recognize cardiac arrest, again, he's pretending to be a surgeon, decided to perform cardiac arrest, this 31-year-old woman may have not lost her life. And again, I understand a lot of you are going to say, well, it was a cosmetic procedure. She was doing it in a shady way. She should have known better, even though we don't have images of the inside of this particular apartment, so we don't know how legit it looked on the inside. The fact is, he could have done something had he had some basic know-how, and anyone and everyone can be certified for CPR, and you should do it. A lot of times you could do it for free, and I think it's absolutely crucial, because who knows when you'll need those particular skills, and you definitely should have it if you're pretending to be a fake doctor. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying this was an eminently dealable situation that he decided to preserve himself over. So again, I'm tacking on an extra 25 years in this particular case, because honestly, like, there's no excuse for this kind of thing. This is really scary kind of stuff. And in reality, the chances are he was just taking advantage of somebody who is not all that aware. Maybe somebody who was an immigrant. Maybe he was an immigrant himself. He was fleeing back to Colombia. That information is conveniently omitted from all these different various articles. And it's just disgusting. And he did it for a quick cash grab. And who knows how many other victims he's botched and or hurt and or caused infections or all sorts of other problems through these failed procedures. So if you are a victim of this individual, go forward to the police. Make sure that this guy never sees the light of day. And if he is here illegally or on some kind of visa, get his ass out of here after he serves his time. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about somebody performing an illegal buttectomy in an Astoria apartment. Till next time.